Welcome to this edition of Taking Action. This country, since 2016, has seen an explosive growth in grassroots candidacies. As we become a people with ever greater entrenchment in populist ideas, a third wave of humanitarian petitioners are stepping up to fill the shoes of giants. Today, we will discuss the motives and ideas of this movement with one of its pioneers, Kaylyn Kryfka, who is fed up with the way our political elite have treated their constituency, is leading the charge in the 3rd District in Nebraska to bid for the seat in the House of Representatives. Her goal is to bring about real and meaningful change. The broad rural swath of Nebraska's 3rd Congressional District seems an unusual place for development of progressive ideas. What were some of the things that you experienced that helped you break from the standard of thinking in the heartland?
I don't think there was any specific catalyst, so to speak, that kind of pushed me to be more progressive. I think it was kind of a combination of a lot of different factors from the way I was raised. You know, my parents raised me to be kind and loving and accepting, to get the shirt off my back if I was able to. I remember countless times stopping and pushing vehicles that were stuck in the snow on the side of the road. I had a stranger at Thanksgiving a few years ago that had just moved to town and didn't have any family. Just kind of that idea of inclusivity and community. My parents always talk about having a servant's heart. And so that's kind of, I think, has shaped who I am as a person. And I did grow up in a kind of small town in Nebraska, York, Nebraska, but for being a small town, surprisingly diverse, a lot of people from different races and ethnic backgrounds, different nationalities, members of the LGBTQ plus community. And those are the people that were my friends and my classmates, the people that I grew up with. And seeing that we could grow up in the same town and go to the same school, yet have such vastly different experiences in life is kind of eye-opening. And then I've worked in restaurants pretty much my entire career. And as a server, working in restaurants in general, you work with people from all different walks of life, and you serve guests from all over the country. You hear about people's different experiences, and seeing that despite the fact that most of us are your average working middle class American, that we could live our lives in that same box, yet face such different struggles, kind of gives you an appreciation for other people's circumstances and kind of give you an insight into the shoes that they walk in, even if you can't walk in them yourself. And I think that's kind of those factors is kind of what shaped me into the person that I am now.
Excellent. And you touched on something really kind of a serious issue here. There's regularly a big disagreement between those who are those who live in more densely populated areas and those whose subsistence comes from agriculture. Just generally about how governing should work. What's your plan? What in your plan shows your potential constituency that their needs will be represented in Washington?
So obviously, I'm going to primarily speak from my experience working in a more populated area. I'm obviously not as big as like Omaha, but we have some population centers here. And so the only way that I can effectively represent their needs is if I do the legwork and I get out and I talk to the people in those rural communities. I talk to the people that work in the ag businesses and the farmers and the ranchers, and really show them that, I do have the beginnings of a plan in place for how I think I can help them. But that I need their insight and I need their communication. I need to be accessible to them so that I can know that I am accurately representing their needs. I'm accurately taking what they want to happen up to Washington, so we can compromise on those things, and I can really fight for them in a way that I couldn't if I didn't take that step to really reach out to them.
Excellent. Yeah, and in fact, aside from Dakota and Saline counties, the 3rd District has been, both historically and recently, it's shown itself to be a very conservative area, and by a wide margin. Do you have a plan in place to show a classically red district that it's about policy rather than party?
I do. I think the main focus needs to be on the people of the state over policy or party. I think historically in Nebraska have a tendency to stick together and to work together for the betterment of our state. Within the last year or two, there was those massive amount of flooding that displaced people and put people out of work. And Nebraskans came out in hordes from every corner of the state to band together arm in arm to really strengthen our community and be Nebraska strong. And so I think just making sure that I make it clear that I'm here to represent the needs of not just the people that align with me politically, but every constituent within our district and our state is really important. And a lot of the fundamental systemic changes that need to happen, we all want those things to happen, I think. We just have different ideas on how we need to get there. And so it's making it clear that I'm willing to have those hard conversations about the root cause of those issues and the best solution to fix them. And I'm willing to compromise on the ways that we need to get there so we can all get to the same end goal that I think is what we're all working towards.
Great. Yeah, it does sound like you have a pretty solid plan. Uniting people is always a good policy. But you're running as a Democrat, and the DNC is notorious for providing no assistance at all to candidates that they feel don't represent an area that they already have a stronghold on, or a major battle that they feel they need to displace somebody, like as was the case with Mitch McConnell this year. The majority of the funding does go in that direction rather. Do you have a plan in place to utilize grassroots funding to make your information widely available yet?
I do. I don't want large scale donors in the first place. So I'm not too concerned on that aspect. I think the people that need to be funding me are the people that I'm working for, which is the constituents. And the way I plan to get the word out, I guess, about my movement and what I'm fighting for, and to get the donations that I need to get me there, is by kind of utilizing social media in a way that I feel that no other candidate has done in the state of Nebraska. Platforms like TikTok and Twitter and Facebook, Instagram, just really using that to reach as broad an audience as I can. Social media today gives you the ability to reach people in every quarter of the country and across the world in a matter of seconds. And so I think that is a fantastic tool that I can utilize that my competitors aren't going to be utilizing. I will obviously be still doing some traditional methods like mailers and things like that, as well as, like I said, doing the legwork to get out to people that may not be as social media friendly, may not be as tech savvy. But I think using social media is going to be the largest way that I can get the word out about what I'm fighting for and get people to fight along with me.
Excellent. Americans have shown an overwhelming support for the introduction of bills like Medicare for All Act, the Green New Deal, the George Floyd Act. Are there particular policies that you'd like to highlight during your campaign?
One of the most well-known, you mentioned Medicare for All. That's something that I'm really passionate about. I think that every person in the country needs access to affordable health care. And I have a website up, and I have a plan in place for how I plan to fund Medicare for All. That's a big cornerstone in my platform. And I did take points from Bernie Sanders and from Elizabeth Warren, as well as putting some of my own ideas into it and how we can bring that to fruition. But I do think that we also need to look at mental health care for all under the umbrella of healthcare for all. I mean, in the state of Nebraska, only 27% of adults seek any sort of mental health care. And so that's a big gap in the people that potentially need that versus the ones that have access to it. And that's only adults over the age of 18. That there's no statistics for how many minors don't get the mental health care that they need. So I think that's a really important point that I want to focus on. Another platform point that I'm really passionate about, and I don't know that there's any policies in place currently to work towards this, is foster care reform. I have 7 adopted siblings, so that's something that I'm really passionate about, something that I want to make sure gets paid attention to. And I'm planning to if I win my run and I get into Washington, to put some policies into place that can potentially help to take care of the kids within the system, but also lend support to the parents that are fostering the kids from the system, because there isn't a very strong support system there all the time. And those are a couple of the key platform points that I'm going to be focusing on during my run. Now, go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming out. Is there anything that you feel people need to be taking away from this conversation that you haven't already said?
I think we need real change in America today. I think all of us are in agreement there. I think there is some disagreement, like I said, in how we get to that point. But I feel that the people that are in office right now obviously aren't pushing for the changes that we need. And so while there may be some hesitancy in terms of the validity as a candidate, with me being young and not having the same political experience as some of my opponents and people on the other side of the aisle, I believe that our founding fathers created our government with the intention of it being run by the people for the people, not for career politicians that have been in office for 60 years, not people that have giant corporate donors in their wallet. It was made for us, the people, to be fighting for change, for a betterment of our country. And I am the average middle-class working American. I have that experience now that I can use to push the policies that I want to implement when I get into government. And I think using this experience that I have now will really help to take the views and the wants of the people within my district all the way up to Washington, so that we can really help to implement real change in the government today.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming out. I will make sure that there's a link to information about you in the comments section here today. Yeah, I'm very happy to have had you, and I wish you the very best of luck with your run.
Thank you.